Welcome to the Hockey Hub. I'm Dale Arnold, filling in for Adam Pellerin today. Happy to be reunited with an old friend and an old colleague. We don't need to talk about how far back our relationship goes. Andy Brickley's with us. Brick, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dale. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I pointed out to Billy and Barry that the Bruins are 4-0 since I came back to the telecast. I'm not taking credit or anything, but they haven't lost a game. But let's talk about Joe Sacco more importantly. 7-2 record since he took over as the coach. You take a look at some of the numbers, scoring 3 goals a game, giving up 2 goals a game. They have had the benefit of a relatively easy schedule, and I will admit that here. But what's the difference for this team under Sacco so far?
Well, first of all, Dale, I wouldn't call it easy. I don't think there's anything easy about this game at the NHL level. Anybody can beat anybody on a given day. And but depending on your roster construction, your injury situation, your goaltending, anybody can beat anybody. So let's not say easy schedule, but they have not played the iron. We can put it that way. It's going to be a pretty good road trip for Boston here, playing 5 games and have to travel out west, so different times. But as far as the team, Dale, I think it's more the players than Joe, to be honest with you. I think Joe's a great hockey guy. He's been here for over a decade. We're all very familiar with him. He's got a good message, a way to deliver a message. The Bruins have been lucky to have some unbelievable head coaches, and it's now his opportunity. And I think he called it bittersweet the way it came about. But once you have that opportunity, it's what you do with it, and you're seeing some great things. But I think it's more on the players. I think the players were embarrassed the way they started the season. I know that they felt they had a hand in the coach getting fired. Certainly landed on his feet, did Monty. But I think the improved play starts with the players, and then it was defense. You mentioned the goals, and that's great. Offense is awesome. And the power play needs to improve. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit today. But I think he based his, if you want to call it turnaround, or his success, or his record, wins and losses, based on improved defense. They're stronger down the middle. I like keeping Zacha in the middle with Coyle as your third line center. That strength down the middle, not giving up your blue line, better in front of your net, better along the boards in the defensive zone. I think all those areas the team improved, but it's mostly as individual players taking a good look in the mirror and saying, I got to be a lot better than I've been to this point in the season. I think that's really at the crux of the turnaround for Boston.
We've both been around this game for a long time. We've seen this happen a lot. A team makes a coaching change, and they go on a bit of a run for whatever reason. The question is, how long can that run last?
Yeah, you'll take this winning percentage, wouldn't you? Ever since Joe took over, it's all about banking points. You're not going to win every game. It's how you play. They talk about the process and playing the game right. Every team says those same things, but the eyeball test tells us that if the Bruins play with that kind of hockey IQ, nothing worse than watching a talented team not play a smart hockey game. And I think the Bruins lost some games early in this year because they weren't playing intelligently. So I guess the long answer for me, Dale, is I can see them, 8 points on this trip, if that sounds reasonable. I think that would be a good winning percentage when you start talking about the teams that they're going to have to play. They need to get it done on the road. They've played more games than just about everybody else. So it's really about banking points right now. And if they can go on this road trip with the attitude that we're going to continue to play the way that we've played to allow us to put ourselves in a much better position in the standings, I think the winning percentage will be there for this team.
Well, let's hear from interim coach Joe Sacco and talking a little bit about how his team is playing a lot better here of late.
You're not going to have your best during the course of 60 minutes. There's going to be times in the games where there's ups and downs and ebbs and flows. So you just have to stick with your process, stick with the game plan, and believe in it. And it was a good sign tonight again for us. We've had some issues in the third period at home, but it was a great sign tonight how we battled back in that third period. Great sign for our team.
You guys didn't come back from some of those early in the season. Do you feel like you guys are starting to expect that they can and feel confident that they will, given that that's been more common lately?
Well, they should expect that. They should, and I think that's you get on the right side of that feeling, and then you just stay with it. I think this league, like I just said, if you play the right way, if you stay determined and stay focused, you can come back in this league. There's a lot of teams that have a hard time holding on to leagues. It's not easy. It's happened to us before. So, but I do believe our guys are starting to feel that if they get on the right side of it, they have the ability to get back.
Rick, let's talk about defense for just a moment. The last 9 games under Jim Montgomery, the Bruins allowed 27 goals. The first 9 games under Joe Sacco, they've allowed 18 goals. And you said a lot of this is on the players and taking responsibility for their game. Do you see much of a difference in the format or the structure that Sacco's got in place for this team?
No, I don't, Dale. I don't. I think the system that was in play, it's something that he believed in as the associate coach. I don't think he wanted to tweak much in terms of trying to change the way the guys were playing. Just go out and execute better. And I think the biggest area, and I talk about a lot, Dale, is if you can deny plays in center ice, meaning you hold that offensive blue line as long as you can, and then you really gap up in center ice and deny plays before the red line. And I think that's the biggest turnaround, the biggest change, the biggest adjustment, I guess you want to call it, if you want to start talking about X's and O's. I think they've done a much, much better job in that area. Not perfect. And you heard Joe, you're not going to have your best for the full 60. So there's going to be stretches where, the team's going to push and you're going to give up your blue line and you're going to have to defend. And that's where you have to defend from the inside out in the defensive zone. And I think that's been the biggest difference in terms of better defense. I think Korpisalo's been good all year, but I think Swayman's game has improved. I think he has a better idea where the shots are coming from, and his rebound control has improved. So that also helps. And the penalty killing, Dale. That's part of your team defense, and their penalty killing has been much, much better with their decision making, get the 200-foot clears when necessary, and being aggressive at the right times in the defensive zone. And they use a lot of guys to kill penalties because it keeps everybody in the game. So I think that's been a big part of their turnaround defensively as well.
Power play success has ebbed and flowed here over the years under many different coaches. Sometimes it's been great, sometimes it's been middle of the pack. Penalty kill has been consistent. They've always been one of the best penalty killing teams in the National Hockey League. When I saw the Bruins ranked 32nd on the penalty kill for a while there, I was shocked, and it has improved. I was getting so frustrated at the attempted clears out of the zone that didn't quite get out of the zone, and we're seeing a difference with that. Is that just mindset on the part of the players?
Absolutely. It's how much pride do you take in killing a penalty? It's fun to score goals still. The celebrations on the bench when you see a great goal scored and you come by and you celebrate and it's a good feeling. And that's the fun part of playing hockey. That's the fun zone down in the offensive end. But if you take pride in keeping the puck out of your net, and you do that with excellent killing and shot blocking and winning faceoffs, Peeke, and getting that hard wraparound or off the glass and out, or you make a really good defensive play when it's a 2-on-1 against you, whether it's isolated in the defensive zone or off the rush, and you defend and you keep that puck out and you get through that 2 minutes without giving up a goal. That's a good feeling, and you got to take pride in that, and your teammates got to let you know that, hey, you're awesome, that was great, you're so a big part of what we do to win hockey games. And I think once they had that feeling and got back to that feeling, because we know they're good penalty killers, once they got back to that pride issue of keeping the puck out of the net and seeing those numbers come down in terms of goals against and goaltenders playing better, that's an awesome feeling. You come into the game, you come in after a game, and I always talk about you might be spitting a little blood and you puddle of sweat underneath you, and you feel good because you defended. You played really good defense, and that's a good feeling.
With Jim Montgomery as the head coach here, the Bruins' power play was successful 11.7% of the time, nowhere near good enough. Under Joe Sacco, it's improved slightly to 12.9%. Now, Saturday against the Flyers, we saw 14 power play shots against Philadelphia. What are you seeing that's incrementally changing for this Bruins power play?
Well, what we were hoping we were going to see all year, and that's more of a shot mentality, whether it's from the top of the umbrella from Charlie McAvoy on that first unit, David Pastrnak starting to get his confidence with his shot. God, he made some great plays the other day in that victory, that comeback win over Philadelphia. I love how he moved the puck and the determination on the game when it was spectacular. But he needs to really have that trigger mentality. He's a goal scorer. He's a goal scorer, a gifted one. And when he has that shot mentality and he doesn't defer and he gets to certain spots in the offensive zone on that power play, they move him around. Don't be adaptable, over in that one spot or that. He's got to be moving. He plays the game better when he's on the move than when he's standing still. But I think it starts at the top of the umbrella with McAvoy. And I think the move, and I don't know if Joe Sacco did this or not, but the move because I know Monty wanted to try it too, or use it more. Get Marchand closer to the net, get him down by the goal line, get him in front of the net, and let Zacha be more of that overload guy on the elbow, and try to use as much as you can the middle of the ice with Lindholm. I think all those areas are better. I think they have a better understanding how to create those 2-on-1s and triangles with a power play, but it starts with a shot mentality. And what is it? Quantity over quality, I guess, is really discussion when you talk about the Bruins and having that shot mentality on the man advantage. I don't expect it to stay around 12% tail, wherever it's at, 13%. They're too good. They're too talented.
For the latest on the New England Patriots and National Football League news, make sure to listen to Foxborough Rush. Foxborough Rush can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. It probably shouldn't be a surprise to people who have watched you on the telecast for all these years, but I always thought you thought the game as well as any player I've ever dealt with. And I got to be honest with you, the mentality of this team, late in periods, late in games, has been so frustrating this year. Giving up goals. They did it again in Chicago the other night. Is that mentality or is that physical? What is going on with that part of the game?
Yeah, mostly that's mental. We talk about mental toughness, and that's a perfect example of when you need to be at your toughest mentally in those situations. You want to be on the ice late in the period, especially if you're, protecting a lead, certainly, and you want to go into an intermission with the right frame of mind and feel good about what you did for those 20 minutes. And it's a mentality, Dale. It's where you have to make high percentage plays and forego the home run pass, or try to beat a guy one-on-one, or overplay an angle because you want to be aggressive going for a hit. Whatever mistake occurs that allows the goal to be scored against, it really comes down to that mental toughness that you have to have in that situation. Manage the game, manage the score, manage the time of the game. And I think that's an area Boston certainly can be better in. I've seen improvements, as we've already talked about, Dale, in a number of areas, how you play without the puck. And that's another one of those areas that needs to continue to improve. And, you look for your leaders in those situations. You like a leader on the ice. And, when I talk about Charlie Coyle being your third-line center, just to make a side point here, I like having them there for another reason, because your bottom six leaders, usually your top six are going to be your best offensive guys, obviously, guys you rely on to impact the game on the scoreboard. But those bottom six guys, they need a leader. And I think Coyle's the perfect guy to lead that group of six, depending on who's in the lineup. You think back to the 2011 team and that generation, they had Sean Thornton. Thornton might only play 6-7 minutes a night some nights. But he was instrumental in that group being effective, and no shortcuts taken, and good plays being made. So if you're a bottom six guy and you're on the ice in the last minute of a period, again, take pride in that situation that you're being called upon to get the job done.
You're watching the Hockey Hub, and if you like what you hear, then make sure to like and subscribe to the show. Hockey Hub can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. Back with Bruins analyst Andy Brickley here on the Hockey Hub. Got some guys on some heaters here of late. Interestingly enough, David Pastrnak's on a heater, but not with goals, but with assists. But a couple of other guys. Let's talk about Brad Marchand first. Your captain. You talked about leadership in the last segment. This guy's got a 3-game point streak right now with 3 goals and an assist. Last 9 games, 6 goals, a couple of assists, couple of game-winning goals. We're starting to see him maybe physically round into form as well.
No doubt about it. And, having been in these situations in the past, Dale, a lot of surgeries in my background and off-season surgeries. And Brad had 3 procedures this off-season, and it's no surprise. You were kind of hoping that maybe by game 10, 12, 15 that he'd start to look like his old self. Took a little longer, but I think he's starting to feel, really comfortable with his body, his health, his strength, his edge work, his ability to handle the puck. A lot of plays kind of died on the vine when they went in his direction early in the year. He'd fumble the puck, or he'd miss the net, maybe hit a post. But it was more just, it looked uncomfortable. It didn't look confident. It didn't look like the sure thing Love that goal he scored. We've shown it a bunch of times against Detroit where he comes off the goal line, arcs right out by the dot and rips one short side high. I mean, those are the things that you start to get used to seeing Brad. And another telltale, too, is how is he handling the puck on the power play. That's usually the sign, because a lot of plays do go through him because he hunts pucks and he's a great puck retrieval guy, and he makes plays no matter where he's in the offensive zone. And his ability to handle the puck and complete a play that he wants to make, and he wanted to make early in the year, and it just wasn't there for him. I think that's a really good sign when you really do the eyeball test watching Brad handle the puck.
Pavel Zacha, the last 6 games, 4 goals, couple of assists, 6 points, 3 game-winning goals, including a couple in overtime. You mentioned earlier about how you like him in the middle. You like him as a center. Is that part of what we're seeing going on with his success here of late?
I do, and it's he's such a good player, Dale. You know, he does so many really good things. He's smart. He's in the right position. He supports the puck in the middle of the ice. You know, if he plays wing, he kind of drifts into the middle, so that's why I like him in the middle to begin with. And he does things just so well. The subtleties of the game. He makes high percentage plays. He makes the real good decisions, but he's talented enough to wow you with a couple of really good plays. And you know that he likes to play with good offensive players because of his skill set. The only critique or the only criticism is he's one of those guys like should have 40 goals a year because of the opportunities that he gets. So right now he's finding the back of the net, which is a good feeling, and it's good for the team. It helps the top six. I'd like to see him be more effective on the power play, as we would all. But he's a terrific player. He's got good vision, sees the ice, can pass the puck forehand, backhand. It doesn't matter. Another reason you like him in the middle. And he has a conscience. He has a defensive conscience. He likes to play defense because he wants to be that 200-foot complete player, which I believe he is. But now we're starting to see the offense, and that is a welcome sight.
David Pastrnak is also a 40, 50, or 60 goal scorer. And the
Yeah.
goals haven't come the way he would like them to so far this year. But I mentioned his playmaking of late. He set up Zacha on a couple of overtime game winners. He has always been a slick passer, a slick playmaker, but maybe his shooting prowess overshadowed that a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. And I wouldn't mind it overshadowing again, to be honest with you.
Shoot the
Love when
puck a
he
little more.
scores goals. Yeah, I love when he scores goals. But yeah, at one time the confidence had slipped, and you could see he was deferring. Even 2-on-1s when they're overplaying the pass, he'd still try to force it in there instead of just ripping it like he can, and not overthinking the game or wondering why he's not scoring. And I think he'll get back to that. You use the word heater. I think he'll be on a goal scoring heater at some point. Don't know when it's going to come, but it'll come because he's that good and he's that good of a goal scorer. People want a criticism for his turnovers, right? And I understand that because, but if you took a look at the league leaders in turnovers, they're all top offensive guys. That's just the way it is. It's when do you turn it over and why do you turn it over? But right now, he's completing his plays. He's a guy that can thread a needle. He can throw an area pass tape to tape. He can go behind his back with it. He can fake his shot and make a nice little, kind of that Kucherov fake. Maybe not as good as Kucherov, but that type of play. He has the full arsenal when it comes to the offensive side of the game. I would like to see him be a little bit more selfish and score some goals for this team, particularly with the man advantage.
Charlie McAvoy is a defenseman and a very, very good defenseman. But I love when he gets involved offensively. I think it opens things up for this team so much more when he becomes a part of the offense as well.
Yeah, and I'll point to a couple of things, Dale, that jump out at me when you talk about Charlie McAvoy's game. The reverse hit the other day, that's a thing of beauty. That tells me that he's on top of his game when he's able to do that. Reverse hit, make a play on the puck, get it out of your defensive zone, join the rush. The other thing is on the power play. I like him carrying the puck. I know the Bruins like that delay with Zacha and Pastrnak, and it's effective, but I like when he's carrying the puck. I think they get easy entries when he's carrying the puck, and I think he's more involved in the game and in the offensive flow if he's carrying the puck. I have no problem with him moving around in the offensive zone. He does that as well as anybody. Would like to see him shoot more. We all do. We all want to see that guy's shot because he has a good one. But again, it's the physicality that gets him into the game. Carrying the puck, that gets him into the game. And when he's into the game, he's one of the dominant defensemen in the league. We haven't seen enough of it this year. Coming into the season, we had our meetings at Nesson. And one of my storylines, certainly, and I think I shared this with just about everybody, that we all shared this, that, he can be a difference maker on a nightly basis. He can control the game in all three zones. He has that ability, and I'm looking for it this year to be there more often than it's been in his previous years. As good as he's been, he can be better. He's got another level, and I hope that's where his game's going right now.
Just a quick aside, not about Charlie McAvoy, but about another defenseman. If Nikita Zadorov can shoot the puck like I saw shoot the puck the other day, let her rip more. Holy cow, what a shot.
Yeah, he can shoot it. He's a powerful guy. He's a big man. He's a big hitter. It's all decision makings for him, Dale. He knows that his first job is to defend, and if he's going to be on a pair with Peeke, that's the expectation. But if you move him up, say with Carlo, maybe you expect him to be a little bit more involved in the offense because Carlo's going to be kind of a shutdown D, kind of the way Peeke is a little bit. But yeah, he can shoot the puck, no doubt about it. It's just about decisions, when to shoot it, how to quick to get rid of it, how accurate do you want to be. He makes some really good plays. He's got a pretty good hockey IQ when he's got the puck and he's involved in the offense. And you want it to be below the crossbar and between the posts, right? I mean, I remember Chara used to tee him up sometimes. I would have been afraid to stand in front of the net some of those one-timers he would take on the power play because it would be, crossbar high. But Zadorov, he's usually got a pretty good idea of the purpose for his shots, and he can tee it up.
And let's not lose sight of the fact, I don't know a timetable, obviously, but when Hampus Lindholm gets added back into this mix, that's going to help offense from the blue line as well.
Yeah, you never like to see a guy of that skill level go down long term because he's a big piece of what Boston is trying to be as a team. I guess the silver lining is Noury stays in the lineup more consistently, gets more minutes, gets more opportunity, gets some power play time. You want to develop your young players, and that's the only way. You try to give them their time in the minor leagues, and then when they're ready, you don't want them going back. So then you have a little bit of on-the-job learning, and you got to live with some mistakes. And you hope that those mistakes don't repeat themselves time after time after time. So I think that's one of the silver linings with Hampus being out of lineup, that a guy like Mason Noury gets significant NHL game time and situational play, and you hope for growth there, and I think we're seeing it.
For more on the Boston Bruins and the biggest trending news in the sports world, check out Boston Has Entered the Chat, hosted by George Balekshi and Travis Thomas. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. Well, you've got a long plane ride to do a lot of this homework, but let's spend a minute or two talking about the Winnipeg Jets. Started the season on fire, have come back to earth a little bit here of late. What are you expecting out of the Winnipeg game on Tuesday night?
I think they're a pretty complete team, to be honest with you, Dale. I like their coach, Scotty Arniel. I think he's got a good hockey mind. He's got a good feel for the room. I think he presses a lot of good buttons, right buttons, to get the best out of his team. They couldn't play at that pace that they were playing on, particularly when you have some of the stronger teams out west that you see on a regular basis. I mean, that's a tough division, really, when you think about some of the talent that's out there. I expect a pretty complete game from those guys. I think they're a strong team at home, or they want to be, or they try to be. It's a little building in there, Dale. I don't know if you've been to the arena in Winnipeg, but it's tough on the visiting team. Just the way the building's constructed, and it's ice, it's fast ice, it's good ice, it's hard ice. I mean, I expect a nice pace to a game, good up-tempo game, opportunities in both directions. And again, the Bruins have to pride themselves on their defensive play and own the middle of the ice and stand up in the neutral zone. If they do that, then you kind of limit the way Winnipeg wants to play.
Brick, the last time I was in Winnipeg, it took the New Jersey Devils 2 days to get into Winnipeg because of a blizzard. We had to walk the last half mile into the arena, remember? That's the last time I was in Winnipeg.
That was the old place. Yeah, Perry Anderson got off the bus because, he had these big feet, triple E's, he called them, and he took one step and fell flat on his face. So we weren't going to follow PA into the building. I know that.
And the big picture of the Queen at one end of the arena as well.
Yeah. That was a fun building to play in, though, Dale. That ice was, even I felt fast out there.
You talked about, the Bruins having to play some tough teams here. They've got a 5-game road trip coming up, beginning in Winnipeg on Tuesday night. This is a time when the Bruins are going to have to, as well as they've played under Joe Sacco, 7-2 record so far, they've got to play even perhaps better, especially on the road.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying when we first, started breaking this team down, and where the improvements have come. We said that we prefaced it by saying there's more room for growth. They can be a better team than they've been, even during this great stretch where they're winning a ton of hockey games, and they know that too. And I think they're taking a better stock of themselves and knowing that they could be even better individually and as a group and as a team. But that's what winning does. It builds that, it builds good team camaraderie. It builds that all for one attitude. It builds that sacrifice for the greater good. And that's what they're going to need on this road trip. They're going to have to sacrifice. They're going to have to play smart. They're going to have to play without the puck for stretches of time where you have to have pride in how you get that part of the game done. But I think that's the direction they're going. It's certainly a much better feeling around this team because they're feeling better about themselves. You win one, you lose one. You win two, you lose two. That's not a good feeling. Not when you're a good hockey team and not when you're good hockey players. And that's what the Bruins are. So you gotta like going into this road trip in the fashion that they did in terms of the winning and the way they won their most recent game. That's another good feeling too, that you start to have that believability. And Joe Sacco talked about it in that clip we showed, the believability that you can win hockey games regardless of what the score is, in the third period. So they're building, they're heading in the right direction. I like what the leaders are doing. Been talking about that for the first 20 games, that they needed more from McAvoy. They needed more from Pastrnak in terms of leadership. And when your game improves, your leadership improves when you're those kinds of guys. And I think that's also been a big plus for Boston.
It's a cliche in hockey, mainly because it's true. And I heard Jeremy Swayman say this after the game on Saturday. It's good for the team to get away for these 5 games, to be together in the hotels, in the rinks, at the games, at practices. This is a good team bonding situation for this team. Really, their first really long road trip of the year.
Yeah, they tried to do it early in the year, when we were out. We had a few days in Salt Lake City, but it just didn't really materialize the way you wanted it to. And I agree with Sway because, especially at this time of year, they're going to be gone right up to almost Christmas. Where they come back on the 20th, I think, and they'll have a couple of home games right before Christmas. And Christmas is about family and being together. And there's going to be a lot of demands on the players in terms of their family situations and people coming into town or whatever it might be. So to have a nice road trip for 10, 11 days leading into the Christmas part of the season, I think is really, really fortunate timing for Boston. And if they have the right approach and they get the results that they're looking for, I think Swayman's hitting the nail on the head. This really starts to build team, T-E-A-M, team on this trip. Keep winning, keep pulling together, keep playing for one another, and have that believability. It's a perfect time of year for this 5-game roadie.
Hey, a brief moment here about Swayman, if we can. Everybody knows about the training camp holdout, signed right as the season started, but didn't have a true training camp. And I don't care how many shots you take from the BU kids over at Agganis Arena, it's not the same. But he's starting to look like his game is rounding into form as well.
Yeah, I think it's easier for a positional player to kind of miss camp and then come in and play with 4 other guys on the ice that you can play off of and get results. But when you play that position and you miss camp, that is a tough hole to dig yourself back out of. I mean, you'd have to ask goalies, Dale, how they feel about it. But, we watched his game. We saw his level in the playoffs a year ago and how he was a monster, how good he was in the playoffs. So the talent is there. It's the reason he held out. It's the reason he got the contracts. It's the reason the Bruins believed in him and were willing to pay him that money because they know what they have in net. And we haven't even scratched the surface, to your point, Dale, this year. But you are seeing signs. You're seeing that competitive nature of his. He hates to lose. He hates to give up goals, whether it's in practice or in a game. And that's what you want from your number one guy. And he wants the net. He wants it, in volume, and he wants it on the biggest stage. And as his game starts rounding into form, and he took a good look at himself, and he leaned on his support system, meaning goalie Bob, and he's starting to come to that level that you're used to seeing him play. We're not there yet. we hope it's right around the corner. Maybe it'll take a little longer, but yeah, you're right, Dale. You can't miss camp when you play that position and expect to just pick up right where you left off in April and May.
Brick, it's great to visit with you again. Great to talk hockey with you again. Thanks for taking a few minutes, and we'll be watching you and Judd Tuesday night in Winnipeg against the Jets. Pack the warm stuff for the first part of the trip, okay?
Yeah, first trip with the overcoat, Dale. Always a pleasure talking hockey with you, my man.
Good to see you. Thanks. Andy Brickley, Bruins analyst, joining us. Let's take a moment here and hear from Adam Pellerin as well, as he spoke one-on-one with Bruins defenseman Andrew Peeke.
Pleased to be joined by Bruins defenseman Andrew Peeke. Thanks for coming on the Hockey Hub, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, you're making history. You and Morgan Geekie, the first players to appear on the Hub, and I know that means a lot to you. And if you want to take a moment to say a few things, I understand.
It's a special day. I've heard a lot about this, so I'm excited to join.
Awesome. Hey, so I guess we'll just start off by talking about how your first full season with the Bruins is going. I know you were traded here last year, probably a bit of a whirlwind, but to be settled in, starting with training camp, and to sort of start from day one, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a whirlwind when you come in at the trade deadline. A lot of joy, a lot of excitement. You know what you're joining. When you're coming to obviously the Bruins and joining the playoff push and everything like that. But coming here now, coming into the season, getting through training camp, you go through that grind with the guys, and you get to experience, finishing up camp and starting the season, and everyone's together, everyone's learning the systems together. So it's nice to get that rhythm and flow going.
In terms of your off season, I know you're far removed from the off season, but now that we're more than a quarter way through the regular season, what sort of things did you work on, and have you seen signs of improvement in whatever areas those might be?
Yeah, I think every summer I continue to always work on my skating. The game gets faster every year, and especially being a defenseman and having to defend some of these forwards. Skating's always, an area I, try to improve on each summer. And then little things, whether that's at the offensive blue line or, little puck plays behind the net in our own zone, ways to touch and handle the puck. Little things like that, you try and, just get repetitions of, coming in camp so that, you feel confident and comfortable doing it in a game.
I know a lot of changes, obviously, last year when you came to Boston, and more changes during your time in Boston. Now Jim Montgomery no longer the head coach, obviously in St. Louis. What was that like from your perspective, that whole thing?
Yeah, like a lot of things, it happens quick. You have to turn that page quickly. Now that we're at the point now, and Joe's behind the bench, we have to adapt and shift to how he is as a coach. And Monty was a great coach, great person, gave me a great opportunity the moment I got traded here. So I'm thankful for the opportunity he gave me, and he was a really good person. So but like I said, when stuff like that happens, you obviously you got to wear it, and us players feel responsible for those actions and things that have happened. But you got to turn that page, you got to move on, you got to reset. And I like where we're at right now with the last two games and how we played.
You talk about turning the page and resetting. It seems like, there was some reset in terms of the defensive structure too. A lot tighter defensively. Was that sort of a good sort of jumping off point for you guys to say, hey, you know what, we got to get back to basics in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think just simplifying, what we wanted, to come out of each game looking like, and how we're going to find success, for the now. And then there's, areas obviously you're going to improve on throughout the season, throughout the year. And right now it's, being tight defensively, and offense comes from that, turnovers come from that. And I think the way we're playing, a 1-0, a 2-1 game, little things like that, builds confidence defensively, and then, the offense always comes. When you play good defensively, offense always comes. And I think that, focusing on what we're, trying to accomplish right now is really important for us.
And being paired with Nikita Zadorov, you talk about changes, obviously a big change, so to speak. What's it been like being paired with him?
Yeah, it's good. He's, a very good skater for his size. He can move that puck up ice, and he just has a presence out there. It's calming as a partner. Knowing that he's gonna, battle in the corners and has that presence, and guys don't really want to go and try and get that puck from him, because they know that outcome. For me, it's, being consistent and being reliable for him. He's gonna jump up the ice. He's gonna do, some things that Zeke can do. But for me, I think he knows where I'm going to be on the ice. He can trust me defensively, and I think we work well as a partner together.
You got to face your former team that drafted you back in 2016, 8 years ago. obviously the result wasn't what you wanted, but what was that like for you to face the Blue Jackets? And I know you got them again at the end of December. You actually go to Columbus, home and home actually. But first, just get back to that first meeting against your old team. What was that like?
Yeah, it's pretty unique. You're friends with all those guys. Really close buddies with some of them. So yeah, it's a little unique, going up against them and knowing some of the memories that you share with them. Your first couple years pro and everything like that. And no, it was fun. Obviously, I wish the game turned out a little differently. We'll have to get them back, but no, it was cool playing against them. Seeing those guys and being able to talk with them afterwards. A lot of good memories there, and it was cool to be able to do that for the first time.
You still keep in touch with a lot of those guys?
Yeah. Keep in touch with them.
Yeah.
See a couple of them throughout the summer. There's been a lot of turnover too there, so a couple guys are elsewhere that I get to see on different teams now. So it's always special. It's the first place you grew up and played with, so they're always gonna have a special place for you.
Now, I know we got to go back in the Wayback Machine a little bit. You played at Notre Dame. And for a year, I believe, when you were at Notre Dame, you were in Hockey East.
Yes,
yep.
Freshman year.
So, and you made it to the semifinals at TD Garden, right? So was that your first time playing? Do you remember that game? Do you remember that experience, being here in Boston for the first time? Maybe that wasn't the first time, but
yeah, it was. It was the first time I played at the Garden.
Okay, yeah.
We had played, BU and a couple of the schools in Hockey East, so been to the area. But yeah, we lost 5-0 to Lowell there.
Yeah.
So maybe not the best first impression.
Norm Basin's got a solid squad year in and year out.
The Garden's, it's awesome, and that fan base, and obviously what we have on a nightly basis here. It's, growing up, everyone knows the Boston Bruins, and it's a place you always want to play. So being in this position now, super fortunate, and it's an honor to wear that B every night.
And you played with Anders Bjork, correct? Is that right? Yeah. So obviously played for the Bruins as well. So the little connection there. The thing that stood out about Notre Dame when they came to the Garden, because first off, having Notre Dame in Hockey East was kind of weird. I know they went to the Big Ten after that. They were independent, but having you guys in Hockey East was sort of weird. But how good of an experience was that to play? BU and BC, and you mentioned UMass Lowell has a good program. A lot of great hockey programs in that division.
Yeah, it was awesome. At the time, I knew we were going to be in Big Ten that next year.
Yep.
So it was kind of, our last hurrah, I guess, for a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's you have the BCs, the BUs, those are powerhouses, and you get up for those games. And I think everyone, Notre Dame is a pretty big school itself, and so we were in a lot of competitive games, and it was pretty cool to play some of these teams that you were visiting or looking at the time, and it's kind of random having Notre Dame and Hockey East, but it was kind of the last hurrah to give it a good go.
Now you were recruited by Notre Dame, I take it. And
yes.
So how what led? I'm sure you were recruited by other schools as well. What led to the decision to go to Notre Dame?
So I always wanted to go to a good academic school as well. My parents were always, I want to say tough, but they were.
Strict.
Strict on me being, a good student and, having hockey and school be one and the same. So Notre Dame kind of had the best of both worlds. And, being from Florida, it's not that I could just drive to a campus here or whatever the case. So I did a little college tour trip right before my junior year. Came to the Northeast and, went out west for a little bit. And Notre Dame was the last school I visited. And I knew right when I stepped on campus that if they were going to offer me a scholarship, to play hockey there, that it was a done deal.
Awesome.
And, I knew right away walking out of there that once that was settled, told my parents that I'm going here. So.
And you go to football games, I take it? Yeah. How cool was that? Experience?
Those Saturdays are pretty special. Those tailgates and going to the games, and it's just a whole different atmosphere. And it's you have hockey, but sometimes there's just enjoying the college life.
Yeah.
And that was some of those days were memories forever.
Have you had a chance? I know obviously with your schedule it's kind of tough, but have you had a chance to go back to campus at all? Or
yeah, I usually go back. So right before training camp, they do a pro week there, and there's a good amount of us that play professionally, all over the world, I guess still.
Yeah.
For here and the AHL, whatever the case may be. So all of us usually go back for a week right before camp. This year I didn't just because moving, new city and everything, but the last 4 or 5 years I'd gone back every week.
Awesome. I know growing up, even going back way further, you had talked about your favorite player growing up. You were a Panthers fan, obviously. It's well documented being from Parkland, Florida, but your favorite player was Joe Sacco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
He had he just had a way about him, on the ice. You always spotted him, whether he was hitting someone or scoring a goal, or he kind of could do everything. And
now it must have been when he came back, right, to Florida, because
yes,
yeah,
the timeline
it was like 2011 he came back, I think, early 2010. Because when he was drafted, it was like before you were born. I think,
like right? When I was really young, like Pavel Zacha, he was phenom down there, and I would always have like a Bure jersey.
Yeah.
But as I kind of started, understanding the game a little bit more, and that I knew I was a defenseman. He was someone that I just enjoyed watching.
Yeah, number 1 overall pick, I think Jovanovski was back in '94, I think. If my memory serves. I don't have my phone with me, so I'm not looking it up. So that's pretty cool. But in terms of your hockey career now, where you're at, what sort of goal do you set goals for yourself, like moving forward, or is it just sort of like you take it's day by day, building, right? As they say in hockey, you build your game.
Yeah, I mean, there's goals, that you have. A lot of it for me is just the consistency, like you said, day in and day out. I think for me and my game, the way I play, being consistent, being reliable, being someone that the coaches, my teammates can trust, that makes me effective on a night in, night out basis. I'm not one to score 30 goals or have 50 points or whatever, but there's other things, block shots, hits, little things like that I take pride in. I think that for me and my game is a pretty important part for me.
I know when you got to Boston, you talked a lot about the traffic being like, what is this, right? But in terms of settling in Boston, I mean, what have you learned about the city, during your time here outside the rink?
I love it. There's so many things to do. There's so many parts of town. The North End, you have Seaport, Southie, whatever. Different restaurants, different vibes in each little section. So it's been awesome, being able to come here and experience all those. And there's so many restaurants and places and things that I haven't even done yet. So that's pretty cool for me to, still tack along.
I know we're in the holiday season, right? But I got to go back to, this was your first Halloween with the Bruins, and I saw your costume. Was that you and your girlfriend?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome idea, right?
Yeah.
But my favorite part is her costume. So this Happy Gilmore and the Caddy, right? For those who didn't see it. No shoe.
Yeah, she didn't have
that. Was nice, man. Was that her idea? Is that all her?
Yeah.
Did you guys collaborate?
She came up with the costume idea. Yeah. And we threw out a couple others, but I thought that was the first one she came up with, and I'm like, let's just do it. Let's keep it simple. Let's do it. And then we were taking pictures, and we were looking at the pictures of us two, and I'm like, you gotta take that boot off. Like, you gotta get the sock off. You gotta do it real.
That's awesome.
So then she kept it like that throughout the day and then the night. So it was, she wore it like a champ.
Oh man, I remember that scene too. It's like slightly to the left. That's because you're not wearing a shoe.
Yeah. So awesome. Funny.
Are you looking forward to the sequel? Like sequel's coming out like at some point? Did you know that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the original's so good.
It is. I know.
It won't ever be topped, but it's exciting knowing that. There's going to be another Happy Gilmore.
I know. I can't wait. Like, I can't wait for Shooter. Like, unfortunately, Chubbs Peterson, R.I.P. Carl Weathers. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Finally, I'll just ask you. The holidays. You guys have a little time off during Christmas. What will you do?
Not sure yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But no, I've gone to Florida. Most of the time. One year I actually had COVID in Columbus.
Oh, really?
Stuck there. But no, I usually go to Florida and be with my family. Maybe visit my girlfriend Ryan's family in Long Island. So just check the schedule, check flights, see what's out there, and I got two good options. So
how important is that break for you? Like just to kind of like decompress for a little bit.
Yeah, it's I know it's nice, and sometimes it's not, right? Like sometimes you're in a groove, sometimes you're playing.
True.
But it is nice, to kind of sit back, and hockey's on your mind 24/7.
Yeah.
If anyone says otherwise, I think they might be lying.
Yeah, you can't turn it off.
It's every day, so it's what we do. It's our job. We love it. But sometimes it is nice to just kick back, see family, see friends, talk about other things, and just enjoy the holidays. So
awesome. Well, appreciate you coming on the Hockey Hub and spending some time with us talking hockey and outside the rink too. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bro.
First guest, eh?
Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah,
love it.
Time, hey? Thank you.
It was my pleasure this past summer to work on set for the Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon with Natalie Noury. Little did we know at the time when we were visiting at Fenway that we were going to get to visit and talk hockey. Natalie, good to see you again.
It's so great to see you too, and I love that the seasons change and so do the conversations, and I'm glad that this one includes you again. And I love the fire behind you. I feel a little less festive than you here in my Portsmouth apartment, but I'll get on it soon.
I live in Maine. I have to warm it up any way I can here. Let's talk some Hockey East action. Nesson will have Merrimack playing host to Northeastern Saturday night at 6 p.m. Tell me what you're expecting out of this Hockey East matchup.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's actually going to be a really good test for both teams because this actually is the last conference game before the holiday break and before the students go back to being students and take their finals. So this is a last push for both teams to kind of prove themselves. And what's interesting is Northeastern and Merrimack, although very different narratives in the locker rooms, that on paper they are kind of experiencing the same thing, just trying to find ways to win games and earn some more Hockey East points. So that's kind of the main point for them this weekend is just how can we close this game out? How can we generate some offense and earn those points? Because when you look at them on the standings, they're actually, I think, eight and ninth, or ninth and 10th. So 3 points can actually propel them into that eighth spot, which we know is important when you look at playoff picture. But as this is the first, the first half break, coaches like to use this to measure where their team is at, where they can go in the next half. And I think this is just going to be a really good overall test and battle for both teams to prove themselves.
Natalie, give me a couple of key players that fans should maybe keep an eye out for Saturday night.
Yeah, on the Northeastern side, it's really been fun to watch Dylan Ritzkovian. He's a sophomore, but he's really stepped up this year. He played with his brother last year, but now that the brother has graduated, it's been nice to see him kind of be independent and really come in clutch in key moments for the team. So Dylan Ritzkovian, offensive threat, really fun to watch him. He dominates practice, takes that into games. He's playing usually on a line with Jack Williams and Cam Lund, although Coach Keefe isn't afraid to shake it up every once in a while. So those three, that line is powerful. Always a couple players to look at. Defensively, Vinny Borghese, he leads the nation in ice time for the Huskies. So his conditioning must be off the rails. I couldn't imagine that. But he does a lot of great things for Northeastern. He's starting to score some more goals lately. So blue line, watch out for him. As far as Merrimack, David Sacco's on a hot streak. I think 5 goals in the last 4 games, and he has 7 on the season. So he's emerging nicely offensively for Merrimack, as well as Zach Bookman and Ty Deneau. Those are 2 that have returned top goal scorers, point scorers last season. Definitely looking for them to get going a little more probably in the second half, but those are some staple pieces for Merrimack that you can look to for not only leadership, but just to push the pace out there.
You mentioned about kind of wrapping things up before you go into finals and the holiday break. Are there other Hockey East games that you're keeping an eye on this week as well as they get ready for their finals as well?
Yeah, it's funny. This is the only in-conference game, so this is, I'd say, the highest competition game that you'll find, but UVM is going to Union, so out-of-conference games are always important, too, to keep the legs fresh and test out your team. But UNH is hosting the U.S. National Program, the U18s at the Whittemore Center in Durham on Saturday, so it's an exhibition, but always kind of cool to see how those players who are going to be something special in the next few years match up against the Hockey East players. So yeah, Merrimack and Northeastern, I think I'll have my TV on for that game, but the other 2 I'll definitely keep an eye on for sure.
Natalie, it's great to visit with you again. I'll look forward to talking some hockey with you later on this season as well.
Yes, definitely, Dale. So great to see you, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Natalie Noury, joining us. You've been watching the Hockey Hub. If you're watching it and you like what you hear, then make sure to like and subscribe to the show. Hockey Hub can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. Dale Arnold filling in for Adam Pellerin. Happy to do so. Hope you enjoyed the hockey talk as well, and we'll see you again down the road. Bye-bye.